Got my man, all SEC linebacker Marvin Constant, and my man, all SEC DB Smoke Dixon in the house. Spring ball is getting axed all across the country. And man, we're here to talk about, is Alabama next? Are we headed to an OTA model? And that's why we are here to discuss what is hot in football. And hit that like and subscribe so you can get all that great content coming at you from the Bama Standard, where you get the best Alabama sports content anywhere in the world. And Smoke, you have been very vocal about where we are headed with spring. Ole Miss last year went to the OTA model, and now Texas, as of this week, has cut it. There's rumblings that Alabama may be next. Man, what are you hearing, Smoke?
Sitting down and talking to a couple of head coaches, P4 level, and a couple of group of 5 level coaches, the understanding of wanting to eliminate the spring physical tackling aspect of it is somewhat being removed. And we got to look at the organized team activity model that the NFL has, of just basically starting out more in the weight room, more in the classroom, less on the field. So the way that it works is it works in the 3 phases. Phase 1 is where you come in and you're already establishing when to work out. This is the Marvin Constant show. This is where you go in, get buff, get in shape, but you started out with more time in the weight room and some time in the classroom to get acclimated to football, but also getting yourself physically conditioned. Phase 2, you'd ramp up more of the football activities, which is more organized, and they're simulated situational in terms of practice. You start with your install 1, your 2s, your 3s on defense, offense, and special teams, and lessen your time in the weight room. And so on when you get into phase 3, more football, less time in the weight room. But Marvin, what I think this is doing on the positive side of it is getting young people more stronger, in better shape, and you're not beating your body up. And it comes into now player safety, to where if you won the national championship last year, you would have played 16 games. 16 games along with physical practices during spring. I don't think you want to spend your money doing it that way. Now we're doing pay for play. You got assets out there that's costing a little bit of cash, some millions, some thousands.
Let's look at it as a whole.
Right.
What do players really gain from a spring game? In high school, when you played a spring game, you played against another school. When you're playing against another school, that's a different level of competitiveness. I don't know these dudes, so I can go do what I do. But when you're in college, it's inner squad. Nobody's really trying to do in their brothers on the field. So you're never going to get a true sense of what the team will look like anyway. Because ain't nobody trying to KO their brother, so you're not going to see the team perform at the highest level anyway.
Right.
So why risk the injuries for a performance that's going to be lackluster anyway? Right. It's almost like a glorified Pro Bowl. Glorified Pro Bowl.
But Mook, if you look at the plus and minus of this new model, I would think on the positive side of it, you're going through player safety. And you're also understanding that you don't need to truly beat your body up that much. Because for a guy that you worked in the weight room, and I don't think people understand that you were part of the strength and conditioning staff while you went back to Alabama to finish up your graduate and your master's classes, that you would want to spend more time in the weight room. Strength and conditioning coaches, once spring ball starts, you end truly the in-depth lifting program that you guys have, because you guys usually go in cycles. But now that you're going to a more OTA model, you don't have to worry about saving my legs, because I don't really need it if I'm going into simulated practices or situational football. And when I watch football, and I watched last year, and we're missing a lot of the techniques. We're missing a lot of the details in plays because everybody's trying to go fast. Kids aren't learning how to play the game properly. So I think if we slow it down, get into a teaching mode, because again, football coaches are teachers first. You have to be able to teach the game before you go out there and have young people run, hit, and tackle. And there's time during spring that you lose some of your better players.
I think this is one of the points that goes under the radar. One of the best benefits that could come out of him moving to this model, like you said, the teaching aspect. Teaching on the field as well as teaching in the weight room. So many kids come out of high school, do not know how to work out properly, or they barely worked out in high school. So they don't know what they're doing. You have to teach them to lift, the proper way to do it, so they don't even injure themselves while they're working out, let alone on the field. There's so much teaching that has to go on.
And you're talking about the early enrollees.
Yeah.
The early enrollees. Go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, you look at how many guys we played with coming out that knew nothing about working out. The first time they worked out for real was when they got to Alabama.
You're talking to one.
That's what I'm saying. So learning how to work out, that's just as important as learning how to play the game.
Right.
So, having this time to educate these kids is going to serve twofold, like you said, on the field and in the weight room. And again, taking that wear and tear off the body, because now you've instituted this playoff system. Now you want these kids to play 16 games. You want them to play NFL season. NFL doesn't play spring game. You have to be mindful of what you're giving your body. And you think about it like this. Coming from high school to college, you're going from playing a 10-game season in high school. If you make it to the playoffs, you might have played 14 or 15, depending upon what state you're in.
Right.
And then you go to college. The biggest difference is in high school, you're playing against guys you're probably 100 times better than, 100 times bigger than, 100 times faster, 100 times stronger.
Not guys that's been lifting and throwing around steel for 4 years. And now you're getting guys having 5th, 6th, 7th, even 9th year awarded to them. You might be playing against some 27 or 26-year-olds as a 17 or 18-year-old young guy coming into college.
Y'all really dove in it on a micro level. And I've heard you mention this, Smoke, so I kind of wanted to dive on this just to play devil's advocate a little bit from a macro level, and that's the fan side of this. This is just another change that fans are having to deal with that they're used to. And let me say this on the front. I think spring games have been long outdated, and they should have gone to another, because like y'all said, you're playing against your own guys, you're risking injury. Coaches don't like the game. They get what they need out of the practices. But this is another big change that fans are having to adapt to. What y'all's thought, Well, I know you've had thoughts on that.
I think that everyone's looking at it and saying spring game. Remove just the game aspect for it. It's the format of how most coaches, when I talk to them, how they're attacking spring practice. It's not going to be the tackle to the ground, physical play like we knew and grew up with, Marvin, where it was shells and then we're padded all the way through. Then Thursday you might have just a okay day because you knew Saturday was going to be your big time scrimmage day. There might be more simulated situational practices rather than tackle down to the ground, getting valuable assets hurt. Case in point, let's say Alabama. You have 2 quarterbacks that you're saying are going into spring ball. One of those guys get hurt going through some type of tackling drills, and most quarterbacks aren't live anyway, but in some practice situations, they become live. You get one of those guys hurt because you have a renegade like Marvin running and just wanting to hit people because he's pissed off. Then you just lost your quarterback for the year that you're spending $1 million on. Now, what you've just gotten is dead money, and you got to go with your backup. Now, the third string is one play away from getting in the game. So it's not necessarily just saying the spring game is canceled. It's the format that most of these coaches are attacking spring practice.
Now, let's just call it what it is. When you say the fans, Pettey, the fans. All right. Most of your season ticket holders don't go to the spring game. Most people go to the spring game are the people who can't afford to go to the Auburn, the LSUs, the Tennessee game. So here's my message to the fans. Here's my message to you. We get it. The 8A goes away or any spring game goes away. That was your one opportunity to go to Bryant-Denny. So instead of going to Golden Corral or Denny's or Papa John's, wherever, put that $20 to $25 once a month into account. Save it. Season comes around. Go to the Mercer game.
There you go.
Go to a game to play in the Citadel. Go to so you can still go to games. It might just cost you about $30 or $40 to get there. It ain't worth it for the players in the long run for you to be able to go and say, I sat in Bryant-Denny and watched them beat the hell out of each other.
One last note on that. Our man behind the scenes, the travel chief, did want to point out that the 2020 national championship team did not have a spring practice. They kind of grew together as a team, and that was one of the better teams in Bama history, and they didn't need that practice. They sat there and grew. So, point.
Football is about timing. Right? All you need to do is get your cadence and your timing down. When you go through spring and you have your timing down, Marvin, we go 6 weeks without getting back on the field together in a padded situation. Some of that timing is lost. Then you got to come back during the fall. So I think this, in the long run, you'll be all right.